Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another round of the absolutely anticipated and exciting on a Sunday night. It is the ARA Sunday Championship, and we have got the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Wall, joining us in the box tonight. Chris, absolutely glad to have you here, but not quite what we used to. We used to seeing you out on the track, and why aren't we seeing you racing around Suzuka this evening?
So I've had a bit of a fallout with the car that I picked for this season. I've just elected to spend the rest of the season on the sidelines, and instead, when able, lend my voice to the commentary side of things, just to help you out a little bit. So hopefully, I can give some insights and a few other bits and bobs as we go along. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well.
Well, it's absolutely an honor once again to have your voice in the commentary box. And for many people that don't know, Chris Wall's been racing for many, many years in the world of sim racing, very knowledgeable, knows quite a bit about what it needs to be at the top. But Chris, taking a look at our championship, and it's been a rather exciting one. Some new names coming to the forefront, but also the old guard busy trying to hold their championship positions. I mean, let's take a look at Diamond. Christoph Peterson currently first in all three rounds. Zolder, Nürburgring, and Mount Panorama. Mount Panorama being his most dominating run. Ernest Lundbrig's great run for him. Unfortunately, Mount Panorama, not the points that he would like. Darius has been on the climb as well, along with Sean Skitter, David Schutten, Michael Castro in 6th, Christian Goff, Ryan Gell down in 8th position, unfortunately missing out 2 rounds so far. Not going to help his drop rounds, but he is tied with Christian Goff. He's missed out 1 round. Mount Panorama, Christian Goff has missed out 2 rounds. And Jens Nelson also sitting on 16 points. So we got a 3-way tie there. Jude Neville in 10th, Camille Hassan in 11th, 12th, Glenn Smith, Mahath Musa in 13th. Hasn't been his best run in the season. Stephen Bologna, James at 14th. 15th, Andre Soradio, followed by Paul the Wall Fenter, who at this point has been struggling to finish a race in multiple leagues. Tonight may be the turning point for him. And Teddy Blondo running in 17th position for our Diamonds.
Yeah, it's a mixed up diamond pack. There's fights all over the shop, really. Like, we'd expect to see Christoph near the top, given that he's won 4 on the bounce, but he's getting a genuine challenge from Lindbergh's this season. And Darius is also there, sort of to back him up with Skitty. So there's a very LNR heavy top of the order, but Lindbergh's is up there as well. And we saw from Zolder, like, if that guy gets ahead, he can build a gap and succeed. He had a bit of a poor Nürburgring. I think he had an incident early on in the race and sort of struggled to regain it. Unfortunately for him, that means that that's probably his drop round, so he needs a really good remainder of the season. Christoph has the advantage of scoring really well so far and can kind of afford a slip up, if that makes sense. He's got room in the pocket to have a bad race. Lindbergh's, he can't do that. He's got to score high now.
Well, and taking a look, the main competitive points, and this has been the talk of the town, is our platinums and our golds. New drivers coming into the fray and really turning things on their heads. I mean, let's take a look at our platinum. Quick run through it. Ben Hicks in first place on 35 points. Martin Spritzer on 33 points in second. Flowscope on 30 points with Tomo Malami in 4th with 30 points as well, matching at this point. Yourself in 5th with Christian, tying points with you. Simon Kusa down in 7th position on 20 points. Kurt Reynolds on 12. Lucas Kolab with 8 points, with Eric Tull in 10th, 4 points. Neil Greening 1, and Aiden Russell yet to score points. But it's really tight in our platinums, our golds as well, with Nicholas Cora in first place, 39 points. Sebastian Luxon, 36 points in second place. Lewis Knight, 30 points. Nico Lawrence in 4th with 28. Finn van Holland running in 5th, 24 points. Federico Calgera is 6th with 18, tying up with David Young. Liam Smith with 16 points. Freddie Morelli down in 9th place with 14 points. Nicholas Porras, 10 points. Stuart Parsons, David Roth, Hanzo Font, Christoph Roloski, Damian Moroni, Wilfred Robertson, Patrick Bells, Tadas Volkel and Finley Gamble. I mean, this has been quite a wild one. And our top 10 in both platinum and gold is, well, who's going to win it? We don't know. And we're on round 4.
Yeah. And if you're looking for some surprises in store, Ben Hicks in his BMW has been lighting up the timesheets in midweek practice. Watch out for him. He's definitely one to watch in platinum, providing that he can just keep it together in the race. He's had a bit of bad luck in the races, so he can definitely sort of do really well in that platinum division. We know how good Flo is. We know how good Tarmo is. Spitzer, been out of sim racing for a little bit, but if anyone knows a Lamborghini, it's Martin. That's his main car. So again, expect him to be there or thereabouts. As for gold, Carrera and Lucasen, I see that being a fight that can really go down to the wire. But you've got Lewis chomping at the heels, and he loves Suzuka, and that Datsun that is in really performs well here as well. So, Lewis is my mate. I've got a lot of time for the guy, and I really hope he has a good result tonight and really brings that gold division alive. Because if he outscores Carrera and Lucasen, suddenly that division is completely alive again, and it's a three-way fight.
Well, talking about Suzuka, flying all the way to Japan, which goes to say the flight has been absolutely great. Chris, I don't know about you, but the economy seats weren't too bad. They were good.
The stewardesses kept bringing me peanuts. It was lovely. Yeah, it was really nice in the cheap seats.
Oh, I was next to the kids. It was fantastic. I had a crier. But let's talk about Suzuka in the dark, out of all things. Very technical circuit where you've got to really modulate the throttle. You're concentrating on your tires. It's a very heavy tire degrading circuit. At the same time, this adding a little bit of a nighttime effect where you can get caught like a deer in the headlights with having lights in your mirrors constantly. What are the drivers having to do to refocus or keep their focus in these conditions where the apex tends to disappear? I mean, Suzuka, you think there would be lots of bright lights to guide you around, but it gets rather dark when you get to the back end of the circuit.
Yeah, the sectors 2 and 3 in particular are quite dark with only the occasional spotlight to light the way. So spotting your apexes, your turning points, your braking points especially become more difficult in this weather. Suzuka, it's not terrible on tyre wear, but it's quite low grip, so it does induce quite a lot of sliding on the car. Especially those what I call the MR cars, so the mid-engine rear-wheel drive, so your Lamborghinis and your Hondas will probably suffer a little bit more with the tyre wear than like a BMW would. So again, that'll factor into it probably later on in the race. But yeah, you're right, the nighttime does bring a degree of difficulty into this, and it can disorientate as well. When you've got 18 pairs of headlights surrounding you, it's quite difficult to focus on one particular part of the track you really need to be looking at. So there's a lot for the drivers to work on tonight, and the one who will come out on top is the one who can really channel and almost tunnel vision their way around the circuit.
And do you feel that there's any particular car that may have an advantage here? I mean, we're looking at David Schutzen at the moment in the Mustang, absolutely eating the curbs and really putting the hammer down, where the Lamborghinis are seemingly a little bit more twitchy, but do have a lot of acceleration and a lot of capability through 130R where they don't have to get near the curbs. What do you feel is going to be the right car to have during the course of this race? I mean, the McLarens, BMWs, Fords, Hondas, Lamborghinis, Nissan GTRs. I mean, nothing seems to have a home field advantage thus far. Do you feel Suzuka may be the turning point for your more Japanese cars?
Well, it is officially the circuit of Honda, although unfortunately for Mr. Venter and Mr. Peterson, I actually think the BMW's got the edge here. It just seems so well balanced for Suzuka. You've got pretty much everything in this circuit that the BMW just loves to eat. It's quite good on the curbs. It's really nice on corner exits. It kind of looks after its tyres quite well, and it seems to be the car to pick for this course, definitely. It's got a good mix of slow to medium high speed corners, so there's no car that's got a definite advantage. But if I was to pick a car for this track, it'd be a BMW.
Well, let's keep an eye on it. David Schutten at the top of the pile with the All-American. Just gets beaten out. Mont Spritzer puts himself into first place with a 2-minute nearly a dead, with David Schutz into second place. Nicholas Cora currently running in fourth place as Ernest Lundbriggs comes across the line, putting himself towards the sharp into a double Lamborghini, going and leading out the pack. Fourth and fifth is our McLarens, but Ben Hicks, out of nowhere, puts himself into second place. Now, he is in the platinum class and is fighting out. Ernest Lundbriggs and Ben Hicks are the only two drivers thus far that's able to break that 2-minute dead mark with a 1:59.8. And Ernest Lundbriggs put in the fastest lap time. Take a look at that. 0.038 of a second. I mean, that is who took a breath first before crossing the line that made the difference.
And Limburg's then didn't really set any particular sector on fire either. So I think we've got, the first laps don't tend to be the best, especially at this circuit where your tyre prep is a couple of laps in the making. So expect to see this come down a little bit more. The drivers will probably do 2 or 3 hot laps, get some fresh tyres on, and then go again. It depends on what the track evolution does as well. Whether we'll get into the 58s, I don't know. I think we'll get very close to the 58s, especially Limburgs. We've not really seen anything from Peterson yet. He's not actually put a lap time in yet. He's just done one. He's just gone pole. He's just gone pole.
Just to go and add a bit of insult to injury, they're going with a 1:59.2, very close to that 58 that you were talking about. But we did see Ernest Lundbriggs was on a very, very quick lap, but traffic becoming a bit of a problem. This is a circuit that's very follow the leader, one can say. On a qualifying, is it better to rather just come off the throttle, let the grid go, and then get back on it, or rather just keep on the power and try and sort yourself through the traffic? Especially considering you've got 8 minutes and 30 seconds left of qualifying. How critical is it to get to the sharp end of the field in qualifying for the race?
Keep an eye on Darius, by the way. He's going through the Casio Triangle now and he's nearly a second up on his best time, so he's about to light the timing boards on fire. But you don't want too much dirty air at Suzuka. There's not too many straights that really give you the aero advantage. You want that gap to the cars ahead. So, Darius P2, lovely lap there by Darius, a 10th off Peterson's in the Nissan. So he's really making a claim for that front row start. Yeah, if that's me on the track, I want a gap to the cars ahead. I don't want to worry about another car's aero wash.
Fair enough. Well, I gotta say, our platinums and our golds have been rather exciting. Ben Hicks running in third place, Nicholas Cora running in fifth as a gold driver. And it seems like our pros, the diamonds that are usually at the sharp end of the field, starting to battle with the competition. The level of competition has been getting better and better and better, and that distance between a gold and a diamond is getting a lot smaller as the season continues. I mean, this is getting into a really great evolution. We're also seeing our irons, which are the rookies coming through, trying to improve. There has been a few incidents that have occurred, but development is starting to happen as the competition is getting more and more stiff out there. At the same time, trying to teach drivers what has been the consensus down in the pits when all the drivers are going through, because I know the training sessions have been rather busy of late.
Yeah, so you sort of hit it on the head there. The iron class typically is the education class, the one where we try and just instill good racecraft in these drivers, and pace really isn't everything. You tend to find that when you start focusing on the likes of racecraft and good track behaviour, that pace just comes naturally from that, and that's what we're seeing in that class. It is getting more competitive all across the board with the likes of, the drivers in this server. These guys have been sim racing long enough. They all know what they're doing. It's server 2 where you really do see the movers and shakers and the steep learning curve, so to speak. In this server, I would probably just expect the drivers to progress a little bit more slowly. The driver that I'm really focusing on at the minute is Malmy. So he puts in so much practice, it's unbelievable. And he really, really grinds away on his lap times, and you do see that. I mean, he's languishing in 22nd at the moment, but he won't be there when qualifying ends. He is half a second up on his time at the minute, so that should put him just outside the top 10, I should imagine. But again, he's one to watch this season for me. Round about now, 5 and a bit minutes left in qualifying. A lot of these drivers, you'll probably start to see them in the pits or now are on out laps after getting fresh tyres. And in another couple of minutes, I think we'll start to see the door being knocked on that 158 from Peterson, Hicks, Darius and Lindberghs.
Well, Melmi going put himself into 11th position, going 0.7 of a second faster than his personal best, having a proper outing and still keeping the pressure up. Darius going 0.1 of a second up, as we do see one of the Porsches stuck off to the side and getting towed back to pits. I mean, a few drivers are going to be sticking it out, but we have to talk about the Track Tool team that has had quite a difficult run through the season, where you've had the team all together. Last race, Bathurst, was a nightmare for the team itself. Martin scoring valuable points, but his teammates weren't quite staying around for the party, having a numerous amount of problems going up the mountain. I know they've been hard at work with Lamborghinis, trying to get them a little bit more settled, and a bit of frustration of understeer coming through the 130R has put a little bit of doubt in the back of the heads. Do you feel the teams are going back and reanalyzing of past races, or are they starting anew heading into Suzuka?
You've got to come into this with a clean slate. It's a completely different track to anything that they've driven so far this season. That's a team that is focused on supporting each other and getting a good end result. They're pretty much occupying P7 to P10 pretty much between them now, as a lot of them are actually on improved laps. So yeah, you know, Spitzer has just put in a 59.7, so he's just gone P5 in a platinum. So yeah, there's definitely potential in that team. Spitzer's 100% one to watch here as well. He's doing really well on the timesheet. And if you look at the timing board, everyone in the top 10 is on an improved lap right now.
Now, just taking a look, Peterson and Ben Hicks have been trading blows of who's got the fastest lap, each going 0.1 quicker in different sectors. And Peterson is going to be taking a look in his mirrors, because there is new drivers looking to take away the crown as Ben Hicks comes across the line, running in third. Unfortunately, not able to jump up just as yet, but did improve his lap time with 159.430. Darius's 159.397 still stands, with Peterson a 159.287. I mean, it's incredible pace, and looking all the way down to 9th position, all within a second of one another. It is extremely, extremely tight. But the drivers are going to have to start thinking a little bit more of how they're going to take the race forward here, as they've only got 2 minutes and 23 seconds left of this race, and a lap is 2 minutes worth at the best of times.
There's some good news for Peterson. I was just thinking who he's really going to be thinking about in this qualifying session, and his main opposition is currently in P4, which is Lindberghs. He's not going to be too worried about Darius. They are teammates. They're not going to trip over each other, I hope. Ben Hicks and Spitzer, they're in a different class. Christoph won't be worried about him. He's about, by the way, to break into the 58s. I think looking at his split times, he's going to be close, 59.0. Really, that's going to be a hard to beat lap. So Lindberghs, he just got caught up behind one of the Track Tool Lamborghinis, so he's now just gone out on fresh rubber. He will make it round in time, but he's only going to have one lap. So that Lamborghini the pressure's on Lindberghs, really. He's now gone down as Skitty's gone to P2. Lindberghs now on the third row of the grid, has it all to do in this final lap of qualifying. He's got to deliver on this one.
That's it. Sean Skitter actually going and improving, but he's behind Finn Holland, who has also been having a huge amount of fun. Sean not wanting to interfere too much, coming off the power and rather just utilizing the slipstream a little bit more. Finn Holland not backing down and rather wants to keep on a positive lap, which he has been doing at this moment. He's been currently 0.1 up. The Windrush Racing team now going and pushing themselves a little bit more, trying to get out of that 23rd position and get into the top 20, not wanting to be caught out. Christoph Peterson 0.1 up on his personal best, may be able to improve it here But Jens Nelson up into second place. That we did not see coming. Jens out of nowhere putting in an absolute banger lap time of 159.275, going and getting Sean Skitter right at the end. Darius pulls into the pit, so he's not going to be able to get another lap in. Ben Hicks trying to improve his lap, currently 0.1 up on his personal best, and we are seeing a big turn of events here. But I've got to give it up to Nelson, just popping out of nowhere.
Faster, yeah. It's bad news for Lindbergh's as well, because that lap from Nilsson puts him onto row 3 of the grid. So he's now, he's now in P6. Granted, he is on an improved lap time, so we'll see what Lindbergh's does. He's currently making his way through the S's. Peterson a 10th up, Nilsson a 10th up on his best lap. Peterson breaks into the 58s. The first and probably maybe the only driver to do it, a 58.9 for Peterson. Phenomenal lap. A few drivers now getting their final laps out of the way. Hicks is 4 tenths up, Stephen. He may be one to watch as he closes out this lap. Nilsson 2 tenths up as well, so he's going to be next across the line. Didn't get a great exit though from Casio Triangle, so he's not going to be able to beat Peterson, but he will improve his time.
Ben Hicks currently improving through 130R, hard on the brakes, trying to go through the final corners, just get it all sorted out. Doesn't want to put a wheel wrong though, flat on the gas. 0.4 up on his personal best. Can he get into the 58s? Gonna try his best and comes towards a line from 5th all the way to 2nd with a 158.980. Absolutely wow. Lewis Knight also improving, currently 0.1 up on his lap time in the Nissan GTR. The Angry Weasel now going and hanging on for dear life through the 130R in the dark, hard on the brakes, swings the big monster in. And while the Godzilla now stares at the beautiful Ferris wheel in the distance, you keep your foot on the gas, a little bit twitchy. And unfortunately, Lewis Knight just losing that little bit of time as he comes towards the line, and unfortunately won't be getting into that top 10 as much as planned. Scott Reynolds in the silver plate Ford Mustang, absolutely sending it as fast as possible. All-American muscle now going and trying to get into the top 10, 0.3 up on his personal base. Can he make it work? Gets himself into 11th.
That was a very good lap from Skurt Reynolds. Wow. You've got to think class position as well. So that's 3rd in class for Skurt. That's a phenomenal result. Korea in the top 10, but that's a gold class car with Lewis Knight just a row or 2 behind him on the grid. So what a qualifying session, Steve. We saw there were so many twists and turns in that. I thought was on the track as well.
Well, the leaders are only split by 0.065. Diamond versus Platinum. This is going to be interesting, and I think for Peterson, it is a bit of a wake-up call that the grid is coming at him at a rate of knots. For Ben Hicks, this must be a huge confidence boost that he's able to play around again. I mean, we've seen that BMW challenge for the top running order not once but twice thus far. He's able to fight within that top 5 and punch way above his weight belt. Now there's an opportunity to get the jump off a line. If he can make his way through the S's, holding back Peterson a little bit, Jens Nelson has an opportunity, and Lundbergs will be going and egging it on. Come, let's go after them. Where the likes of Sean Skitzer is going to have to utilize everything he can to try and defend his teammate. But knowing the team, Chris, are they going to help each other, or is it going to be, well, the race is on? It's first across the line wins.
I think they'll be cooperative, but if there's anything I can say about LNR is we're quite prone to a bit of blue on blue action, so we're not against taking each other out when we need to. But yeah, I see they'll cooperate, and not really try and trip up each other. Yeah, you've got a few outliers in there. It's gonna, like you said, it's gonna be interesting how this one plays out. Pit stop strategy will definitely come into it now. A lot of these teams will be thinking to themselves, is it going to be beneficial to try and go long and break out? Of course, we're going to have the penalties that will be popping up on your screen any second as well. That's all going to add into it here. Yeah, the opening sort of 15 minutes will tell us a lot about how the drivers are going to attack this one, I think.
And the track starting to cool down as well. Qualified on 21 degrees, 20 degrees at the moment. What is this gonna do with tire pressure? Setting it up, getting yourself going. I mean, we always talk about our mandatory pit stop, which needs to be served, our success penalties that will be applied, but in keen fundamentals with tire pressures, how much is that an equalizer or a problem for the drivers, especially in these dark and cooler conditions?
I think the good thing that the drivers have got going for them is it's going to be a very predictable session. We're not expecting any weather or any changes like that. Maybe 1 or 2 degrees track and ambient temp change. If anything, I don't think it'll be a big issue for the drivers. I do think they're all going to change tyres when they come into the pits. It's probably worth it here at Suzuka to do that. The drop off isn't worth it for the 5 seconds you lose. It's more about how the drivers with these time penalties, how they manage that. So you've got the likes of Peterson with 15 seconds. His closest competitor is Lindbergh's with 10 seconds, but he's 5 places behind him on the grid. So how do you play that in the race? That's going to determine the outcome. I think these success penalties, 15 seconds, that's a long time. For these drivers to stay stationary when they're already stationary for like 30 odd seconds anyway. So that will play into it. When you do that, how your team strategically choose to box you. So do you do it with the risk of coming out into traffic? That happened at Zolder, and that did dictate the race outcome as well, I think. How do the teams choose to play this now?
Well, if you've just joining us, welcome to Evolution Racing Academy. Glad to have you in the virtual grandstands. But if you're going and seeing our success penalties for the first time, well, let's walk you through it. If you get 15 seconds, that means you have finished in first place. So you've got 15 seconds to serve as part of your pit stop. So when you pull into the box, you're going to do all that you need to do. 15 seconds get added to your time. You listen to all the cars come flying past you and you stress. Second to that is 10 seconds. Third, 5 seconds. Each of our top 3 will get 5, 10, and 15 seconds added onto them to equalize the field. Does make things a little bit more interesting in terms of planning of when you're going to do your pit stops. The undercuts, the overcuts become far more important to stay at the sharp end of the field. Plus, it also gives you a bit of time to reflect on how your race is going. We've seen that come into play quite a few times where the 15 seconds has been at times after you're down out of the top 20, you're scratching your head thinking, where did it all start going wrong and where can I pull it back together during the course of this race? 30 seconds to go as you see all the GT3s starting to drop down off their air jacks, fire up one by one as they get ready to rock and roll. Got to say, it's absolutely stunning to see a huge field here at Suzuka sitting with 28 cars on a very, very technical circuit that's looking to push the drivers a little bit harder through it all. And this is round 4 of 7 rounds here at Evolution Racing Academy. Chris Wall joining us in the commentary box. The man, the myth, the legend, taking a bit of time away from the Mercedes after it met its fate with an angle grinder not too long ago. Rest in peace.
Yeah, it's only been turned into bean tins. Yeah, that's right. It just got ruined. They did some sort of update to it, and mid apex, the Mercedes is just so unpredictable. Like there's lap time in there, you can definitely get pace out of the car, but over a race distance, it is just so. It's not really drivable in my opinion. So one of the rules of the series, you can't change car, so I've got to stand by the decision I've made, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm taking the rest of the season out. And the drivers are in the warm up now.
Fun. Get to have some
fun.
Talking about everyone out here. I mean, this is incredible, and it's always great to have someone that has got lots of experience with the drivers in the field, but also gets to know the tracks a little bit more here in the set of course competition. That being said, let's go through our grid for the ERA Sunday Championship Round 4 at Suzuka. it is Christoph Peterson in first place with Ben Hicks running in second place. Jens Nelson running in third with a spectacular time coming out of the below top 10 into third place. Great running for them. Sean Skitter running in fourth, followed by Ernest Lundberg's Darius running in sixth. Paul Fenter in seventh place, looking to try and make his move up through the field. Quite happy about the new colours on these cars with Simulator Cave, a brand new sponsor they've just signed with. Martin Spritzer down in ninth. 10th is David Schutzer with the Red Bull colours, hoping that it's going to be a big win for him here at Suzuka, bringing in the inner Max Verstappen. Then we've got David Schutzer running in 10th position with the Big Police Mustang. Scott Reynolds in 11th, going and joining up with the fellow Ford brethren. Lewis Knight down in 12th. Christian Fingler down in 13th with Nico Lawrence on his tail. David Roth in 15th position with Thermo Malami doing a fantastic job in 16th. We want to keep an eye out for as we take a look at Federico Calgero, hoping to get the jump on Nicholas Boros. Glenn Smith going and running in 19th with Freddie Morelli in 20th. 21st is Hanzo Foss with the likes of Krzysztof Rolotsky in 22nd. Patrick Wells running down in 23rd. Joining him up is Finn Holland, David Young, Finley Gamble down in 26th for the 2ID team. Not quite where they wanted to be, but still looking to get the climb. Lucas Collab down in 27th for the Platinum, and not going to be a happy camper there, as he's going to have Damien Maroney looking to get the jump. And we've seen Damien is not afraid to go side by side with the bigger cars with his little Porsche 992 GT3R. I mean, this is an incredible time, but it is incredibly dark. And how to not get caught out off the start. Pressure starting to build, Chris. Ben Hicks starting side by side with the multiple time champion Christoph Peterson as they make their way through 130R in just a little bit of calm. Next time round, it's going to be in absolute anger. I gotta say, I'm really looking forward to this race and see who's going to come out on top.
Oh, I'm excited. We're getting to the business end of the championship now. It matters to these guys. They've been putting in the time all week. They were patiently waiting for the results to be posted after all the stewards' inquiries, and now it's go time. All that work in the week comes down to this next 60 minutes in the dark at Suzuka. I'll let you take the start, and I'll watch a little bit further back from the leaders and see if I can see anything that happens. I'll let you take it from here, Stephen.
Well, as we start making our way through, lights on. Christoph Peterson leading out the pack. Ben Hicks in second. Who's going to get the jump off the line as we lights off racing in 3, 2, 1. And now we're going green. Peterson getting a fantastic jump off the line, middle of the circuit to try and hold Ben Hicks on the wide line. Sean Skitter trying to go a little bit more defensive around the outside as they slot their way into turn 1. Side by sides, Darius going on the outside though, getting pinned by his own teammate of Paul Fenter before he was able to get the run through. Ernest Lundberg's getting a fantastic jump off as they make their way in through the S's, snaking their way around in anger. Remember, cold brakes, cold tires at the moment, and this is where you've got to be so careful. But Peterson opening up the gap, already starting to jump through 0.8 of a second before we even hit our second lap. He is gapping it and wanting to get right away as Darius closing up under braking. That Nissan GTR not hanging around and closing onto the back of Ernest Lundberg's Lamborghini as Jens Nelson just trying to keep it all clean. Darius going and looking for the inside. No room there with Paul Fenter trying to go around the outside and snapping back. A little bit of contact between Martin Spritzer and Paul Fenter. Nothing too bad though. Just a quick sniff as they make their way through. Nicholas Cora as well in 9th place, getting caught out in the run as they power their way through. David Scruton into 10th position with Scott Reynolds. No change with the Mustangs, both keeping it nice and clean, but understeer starting to go and affect them little by little as they make their way out of the spoon. They definitely not the little spoon, they are the big spoon there as they power their way towards 130R for the first time in anger. But it's our leader, Christoph Peterson, who's currently utilizing everything he can, with Ben X trying to keep alive at the moment. First of the Platinums, going and fighting it off against a flock of diamonds before Monspritzer, down in 8th, is second of the Platinums. Nicholas Cora leads out the golds and keeping the pressure on Spritzer, not wanting to go on the attack just as yet, as they fight their way through, completing their first lap at Suzuka, all looking very, very clean, might I add. Only a few scuffs and little bumps in the race, but nothing to really write home about.
No, not a lot. There's been a few losers. There's Glenn Smith, Freddie Merley, both those guys involved in lap 1 tangles. I've not gone back and had a look at those yet, but they're running down in 26th and 27th now. Lindbergh's just been keeping an eye on him. He's up 2 positions. He's up to 5th behind Nilsson and the other Lamborghini. So he really wants to be getting a move on. The problem is the car in front of him is exactly the same. So he's got no car advantage. He's got to do this on skill alone. We know Lindbergh's has extraordinary amounts of that. And importantly for him, he got ahead of Darius into T2. That was the big move. He had to make that move happen straight away, because otherwise Darius would become a massive rolling roadblock in that Nissan, and he didn't want that. So good work from Lindbergh's early race. He's definitely set himself up for a good result. And yeah, it settles up immediately for a very exciting race.
Well, Darius immediately putting the pressure onto the back of that Lamborghini. Quick look on the inside, huge dive, bleeds off the brakes early, gets a bit of a tank slapper, tries to bring it back. And now Ernst Lundberg's going on the inside, trying to retake the position as it's a drag race down to the 130R. But it is a Nissan that creeps ahead. Darius going and bleeding off the brake a little bit early, puts himself in front, and will be more than happy with that one. Nelson keeping the pressure on Sean Skitter at the moment, who's just trying to keep it all nice and neat. As Lundberg tries around the outside, Darius keeps a defensive inside line. Oh, contact between the two, and it has just created a huge concertina effect down the way, with Darius parked in the middle of the chicane and now tumbling down the order after moving into the dirt. But that landed up with likes of Paul Fenter and Martin Spritzer taking a bit of a knock. David Schutzen trying to capitalize on the carnage, dives up into 8th place, gets ahead of Martin Spritzer, and now needs to keep on the power. Martin, I think, has got a little bit of slight aero damage to the nose. Nothing too bad, but I'm sure Darius is going to be seething after that little bit of contact, but too wide through the tightest part of the circuit. Not quite a favorable run. Both unyielding and unfortunately both paying a price.
Yeah, exactly. That's obviously helpful for Lindbergh. He's got one of his competitors sort of not around him anymore. I have gone back and had a look at the incident. I'm not here to comment on it. That's what happens in the stewarding meetings. That'll obviously get. I'm assuming that might well get looked into at a later date. But yeah, Darius got it all to do now. He's down in 25th, 3 and a bit seconds behind Glenn Smith in 24th. So Darius will of course keep going. We'll see what he can rescue in strategy, as we've got a yellow flag for car 101. Is that 101? 103 maybe? 101, yeah, 101 Bellas.
Getting it, and we do see the McLaren of Nicholas Cora getting put out of the way as Martin Spritzer gets turned round and nearly has contact with his own teammates. He's able to get it up and going, but we are starting to see little problems all over. Nico Lawrence and Malami going and running and having blows between one another as well. Glenn Smith going and tumbling down the order, and also going and retiring the car, the 777, landing in a bit of a problem. So we're going to go and take a quick look from above and see what happened to the 2ID, going and picking up the pieces from cars gone by. And Glenn Smith loses the rear into the wall, was gained 2 positions, and the McLaren did what the McLaren does, having the rear kicking out under the cold conditions, and now having to be towed back to the pits with a bit of repair work. Bon Spritzer onto his back, onto his teammate Christian Fingler at the moment to try and pull him through. David Roth also keeping within the fight at the moment. Federico Calgero and Hanso Foss in the big Bentley, the only Bentley racing at the moment. I mean, this is just absolutely mental with Hanso Voss not backing down from the fight. I've got to say, keeping in the top 15 with a car that's not very favored this season compared to old. He's doing an absolutely bang-up job.
And this is the battle for third place in gold as well, don't forget. So Roth, Calgaro, Voss, Rozolski, and to a degree Van Holland, who's a couple of seconds behind. They're all vying for that third place spot. This is helping out Career and Knight, who are the P1, P2 in class respectively. They've got two Lamborghinis in Fengler and Spitzer between them and the rest of the guys, and they're now able to just start pulling away as the rest of them start to have their own little fights. So good news for Career and Knight, bad news for everyone else in gold at the moment, as they're all having a bit of an early race squabble.
Nico Lawrence in the pits, busy going and getting himself sorted after some earlier contact. And this is one thing we've seen, the 130R and also the Spoon being a very difficult part of the circuit where you feel you can go for a pass and it quickly can disappear from you as that understeer starts to come in, the nose drags out, and suddenly that gap gets smaller and smaller and smaller. You've got to just rather be a little bit more patient, I would think, to try and go for the jump, but also riding the curbs. These cars tend to bounce around because they've just got them so low to the ground. It takes out that little bit of error underneath you, underneath that diffuser, and lands up bouncing them all over the road. Hanso Voss getting ahead of Federico Calgaro at the moment, dives in behind and now looking for the inside, heading into turn one. But Voss with a big Bentley dives in and has no problem at all. And Calgaro suddenly switching focus to the likes of Rolotsky on the back of him, constantly putting that pressure on through the S's, now starting to snake his way around. Lamborghini with that V10 going and having no problem against the McLaren at current. But it's pretty interesting to see that the turbocharged cars are having no problem going and battling their way through. We do see Patrick Bell's a little bit further down, dealing with Freddie Morelli in 23rd, 24th position. Freddie trying to go and make up some time for the wires raising and hoping that he can stay in for the fight. Lewis Knight keeping a very close eye on close friend Christian Fengler at the moment with Martin Spritzer, constantly trying to hassle his teammate to go that little bit quicker at the moment, knowing the threat of David Roth behind him. And this is for overall track position. You shouldn't be worrying too much about that, but at the same time, well, it's overall track position. You want to be first across the line. Nicholas Boris now having Darius keeping the pressure on, and Darius is going to go around the outside, try to go late on the anchors, clip to the dirt a little bit, gets unsettled, heading into Spoon, fighting the wheel of that Nissan GTR, but is able to climb up to 20th or 19th position at this point, absolutely trying to pull himself back into the fight a little bit further up. I mean, this is just going and trading frustration to putting a little bit more behind the wheel and taking the Nissan anger. Do you think he's hurting the tyres a little bit too early?
I mean, that's definitely a potential. It really doesn't make sense for these guys that Darius is trying to get past to put up a fight. He's not in their class. You can actually use Darius. If I'm Mr. Young at the moment and I can see Darius bearing down on me, I'm letting him go because he can go and hassle Van Holland, Rozolski, Calgaro ahead and hopefully slow them down. That looks to be what he's doing. He's just letting him go, you see. That is very sensible racecraft from David Young. He can now just follow in the Nissan's footsteps and he will go ahead and hassle the Porsche and the Lamborghini ahead. Could hurt his tyres, but, you know, I don't think he'll really be concerned about that. He's going to be changing them in 20 minutes anyway, so he'll put them through a world of pain if that means he can get himself back in a class fight up ahead.
Going for that top 10 at all manner of way. Damien Moroni trying to challenge Patrick in through the S. Didn't quite work out. Now Freddie Morelli's got the better drive to try and put that Merc into a favorable position. Unfortunately, the Porsche 992 GT3R, a very nimble car, but Freddie going to try and have a good look towards the inside line, backed out of it, rather choosing not to. Finley Gamble, though, going and getting himself turned round. Unfortunately, the 48 not having an easy time out on the circuit, was able to get up and going, but I'm sure a little bit of frustration kicking in of why the Ferrari 296, which has been one of the reliable cars and an easy car to get into, not quite working, as Finn Van Allen suddenly has Godzilla bearing down on his inside. Darius is absolutely sending it wherever he can at this point to pull himself a little bit closer. He's going to have to work a little bit harder to catch up to Rolotsky, who's in a fight with Calgero, and I think it's going to be a little less easy between the two as they fight it out. Christian Fengler keeping the pressure on Lewis Knight. Now Martin Spritzer going and losing out a little bit of time. Ernest Lundbriggs having a good look around the outside of Jens Nelson. Couldn't quite get it. Very, very close heading into turn 1, as we do see that would have been Sean Skitter, who was just going way wide into turn 1. And that is going to kill his drive completely, put a bit of dirt on those tires, and he's going to have to scrub them down a little bit to get that grip returning to him. Not going to be an easy drive, especially with the Honda. You don't want to drop it down into low RPM below that turbo power band, otherwise you tend to have that little bit of lag. You've got to really work your way through, but it's been quite a race between Nelson and the likes of Lundbriggs. Jens has been a phenomenal defender at this point, and Lundbriggs is having to guess where he can go to really charge his way through the field, considering they're starting to march their way through some of the back markers on circuit.
Yeah, so I've been keeping an eye on lap times and sector times and everything else, and in the past few laps, Lindbergh's has closed down a 3-second gap to Nilsson. His latest lap was a 59.8, Nilsson's was a 2:01, so yeah, Lindbergh's has definitely got the pace advantage, but it's so hard to pass around here that he might have to start thinking about an alternative pit stop strategy just to get out of the traffic. Again, is that worth it for him? I don't know, but he's got to start considering it, because he's going to struggle to get past Nilsson, even with that pace advantage that he has got.
That's going to be a hard charge, nonetheless, trying to keep within the slipstream every which way possible. Doesn't want to get snapped out of it through the 130R, very, very close to track limits, and that's something we haven't quite mentioned. Track limits at Suzuka are quite brutal. I've got to say, one of the hardest hitting in the sim is Suzuka with its track limits. 130R, so easily to put a wheel wrong on the circuit, land up with a warning once, twice, 3 times, and then eventually a drive-through penalty. And all you're trying to do is just find that half a second, maybe that 0.2 of a second through the 130R. That's something that could just gain that little bit more of an advantage, because it's equivalent of gaining an extra 5 kilometers if you get it right. Paul Fenter seeing David Schutzen onto the back of him, the big burly Mustang breathing down the back of the little twin turbo Honda. That's not gonna have an easy time out here, and Paul Fenter is gonna have to go and focus on a defensive run versus just taking it easy like he was doing.
Darius has caught and passed Rozolski. He's now on the back of Calgaro, so he's now starting to insert himself into this gold fight. So we'll see how far Darius makes it through the field. Yeah, you're right. David Schuten's got himself up behind Paul Venter, but like Lindbergh's and Nilsson, is struggling to actually make an effective pass here. We know Paul on his day can be one hell of an awkward guy to race against, and he's proving that here.
He can be an awkward guy in a conversation as well. Decent, it all works.
There's a good little fight between Fengler, Spitzer and Lewis Knight. Lewis has basically just let them go and hoping that the Lamborghinis can start chasing down Korea up ahead. So we'll see if that translates into anything. Korea at the minute very much uncontested at the very top of the gold division. And yeah, you're right. When you start talking about track limits, we're 7 laps in now, and quite a lot of these laps have been invalid for the drivers. How many of them have resulted in track limit warnings, I don't know. It doesn't tell me that. But there's enough invalidations going on to make me think that at least a couple of these drivers are on 1 or 2 warnings already. You get 4, and then you're through the pits.
Well, we do see Rolotsky getting the pass into 130R. Calgero and himself having a bit of a drag race on the way through. Didn't quite work out. David Schutzen, though, going and taking a look on the inside. A little bit of door rub, and both Paul Fenter into the wall. Schutzen going out wide. Fenter landing up going and smashing the nose against the wall. I mean, that was an absolutely brutal one. Let's see if we can quickly go and take a helicam view at it. So Schutten had a phenomenal drive out of the final corner, closing up on Paul Fenter, who then went a little bit defensive, and I think Schutten started having that little bit of understeer. No, he went for a gap that was closing, tried putting his nose in. Paul Fenter hammering against that wall, and will have to go and get that car repaired as he drops down the order. Schutten, unfortunately, not going to be a happy camper with that one, but I think Paul, who is now just trying to stay out of trouble, limping the Honda back home, is going to have a serious amount of work on his hands. That is going to be well over 3 minutes of sitting in the pits, just trying to get that repair work done before he can get out and going again. Hope that he can just get himself all sorted, as we do see Darius onto the back of Hunter Foss, and the big Bentley now having to deal with the Nissan GTR that's been cleaning the clock on the climb back up towards the sharp end of the field. See where they can arrive. Hunter Foss not going and backing down though, not wanting to lose any bit of time. We're saying, Darius, if you're going to get past me, buddy, you best go and give it everything you got, because I want a bit of a slipstream heading into 130R.
Yeah, Darius will make this sensible. He won't make an audacious send, although very much like me, he does love a bit of a send. I could imagine him. As we say that,
back of Hanso.
There's contact.
Yeah, that was a little bit. And Hanso nearly having his nose taken off as well. We're going to go to a quick helicam, and Darius was just closing. He looked for the inside line. Unfortunately, just clipping the right rear of Hunter Foss, who was a little bit defensive, heading into.
I'm not sure he meant to overtake him.
No, I think
I'm
it
not
was
sure
just.
he meant to overtake him, though.
No, he peered at it and just left it, but Hunter Foss nearly getting his nose clipped. Oh, he did. Calgero going and catching the nose of Hunter Foss out of the 130R and also landing out. That was because he was running out wide, going and chasing down one of the Lamborghinis. Not ideal circumstances for both drivers, and now landing up with Calgero getting a bit of damage to the sharp end, to his car a little bit. Not too bad that he's out of the running, but definitely going to be feeling it as we see Hunter Foss, Paul Fenter, Nico Lawrence, Paul Fenter and Hunter Foss into the pits. Nico Lawrence and Lucas Collab have completed their pit stops at the moment. Just unfortunate events of being parked on the outside and having cars just going a little too wide. Nothing much can be done. He was holding his brakes, and you're just a sitting duck.
You are at that point. You just pray into the gods that the cars can see you when they're coming around the corner and take avoiding action. Yeah, that was unfortunate. I don't think Darius meant to go for the move there. He might have just got caught up by the way the Bentley has to take that corner. He did come up to the back of him really quickly, so we wouldn't have seen him go through 130R the lap before. And then when he suddenly arrived on scene, the Bentley maybe has to take a little bit of a different line, bit of a different approach. Obviously, there's a skill gap. Darius is a diamond. Voss is a gold. So, yeah, there's definitely a pace difference between the two cars anyway, and contact. Obviously, contact I'm not going to comment on, but, yeah, it's unfortunate. Neither would have wanted that contact is basically what I'm trying to say.
The one thing I've got to point out, the 130R is one of these corners that some drivers feel that you can lift a little bit and coast the car to get on the power. Others, like myself, we tend to have a slight brake just beforehand to get yourself in, as we do see Freddie Morelli unfortunately turned around and now trying to get himself up and going, and that's out of the 130R. Yes, it is out of the 130R. Kept it out of the wall and would have touched the dirt on the outside. But there's multiple different ways you can enter it, and if you're not going and expecting the driver to maybe touch the brakes or approaching the corner a little bit slower, the closing speed becomes triple of what you were going for.
Yeah, and then any corrective action you try and do is only going to result in a worse outcome. So, yeah, I can tell you from experience, 130R is very different depending on what car you're in. The Lamborghini, for example, did a race in it on Thursday around here, and you can just take a shallow line and chuck that thing in, and it just grips. It loves it. Cars like the Nissan may need to just have a little bit of a brake just to get the weight on a different part of the axle, just to keep the stability through the corner. Some will brake, then accelerate through it to put the weight on the back. Every car's different. And yeah, that does catch a lot of people out around here. We're starting to see some pit stops creeping now, aren't we?
Yes, we're starting to see it with Freddie Morelli just diving into the pits after his close call with the ball. Hunter Foss has completed his pit stop. Nicolaus, Lucas Kolob and Paul Fenter have completed their pit stops and back out on the circuit. Paul Fenter, after a bit of contact early on, going and bringing him with I would say, a very unexpected pit stop. Hunter Foss up into 22nd position. Now is the bar to keep an eye out, and I know our top 10 will be going and trying to egg each other on for a bit of a fight. Yeah, Christian Fengler pulling on his teammates and saying, come on buddy, let's keep going, as Lewis Knight looks to try and catch up with that a little bit more. We do see the 420 though of Paul Fenter into the dirt, just battling around a little bit, trying to get that rhythm back in. But Monspritz are keeping very close to Christian, and these two are just pacing each other to try and catch up to Skirt Reynolds ahead. He has slowly but surely been dropping off the pace, and I think the Mustang's front tires are starting to take an absolute hammering through the corners. It is a car that is known to wear out the front first due to the immense amount of weight of the engine being on top of that axle. The drivers having to just try and work their way through, going and changing their braking bias, changing the traction control, anything to just get it to rotate a little bit more on the rear.
Yeah, you do start to see at this point in the race, cars like the Mustang will start to feel their front tyres a little bit. Even the rears at some point will start to go. I am surprised that there's no team orders there at the Tractor team with Spitzer behind Fengler. I'm surprised that they haven't got on the radio and sort of made an agreement between themselves. I'll let you go. You try and chase down Skirt Reynolds. If you don't get him, give me the place back. That sort of message. I'm surprised that hasn't arrived yet, because Reynolds is only 3 seconds up the road. He's catchable by these guys, especially with that tyre wear the Mustang will get. Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't happened. We've got a yellow flag. Skitty. That's Skitty that is off at 130R.
Now going and just rejoining in front of the cars. And I'm sure that was not a sight that many wanted to see, as Ernest Lundbriggs came bailing around the corner. David Schuton pulling into the pits. Nicholas Cora is going to be happy with that, gaining a position now. But that was a little bit on the exciting side for a few of the drivers. Also, our 24th driver, Freddie Morelli, just kind of arriving on the scene, seeing a Honda 90 degrees while you're going flat out through 130R. It's not like you can climb on the anchors there when needs be. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit too exciting for your cornering. Ernest Lundbriggs looking on the inside of Jens Nelson, just not able to get the drive as he powers his way through, constantly looking to hound the inside line, but just not able to get it on the apex, as Jens going and slowing it down and bringing the pace a little bit more to his liking versus Lundberg's style.
I think Nilsson is trying to get himself on Christoph Peterson's Christmas card list, because this has Peterson basically needed a 5-second buffer between him and Lindbergh's. Nilsson has practically achieved that via just staying where he is and keeping Lindbergh's behind him. Peterson has been able to escape up ahead. Ben Hicks 4 seconds behind him, but Nilsson 6 seconds behind that. So the gap between Lindbergh's and Peterson is now about 10 seconds. The Christmas card list from Peterson can add a new name to it. Jens Nilsson has done him a bit of a solid in the opening 25 minutes.
Oh, absolutely great stuff. Let's take a look at our standing positions, with first place of our Diamonds, Christoph Peterson leading the overall grid. Has got Ben Hicks, who's leading out our Platinum and is second overall. With Jens Nelson running in third, Ernest Lundbriggs onto the back of him, third in class, with likes of Nelson second in class on the Diamonds. Nicholas Cora up into fifth place, leading out our Gold. Skirt Reynolds running second of our Platinums, with Christian Fengler hot on the heels, and Martin Spritzer remaining in the fight as well, fourth of our Platinums. Second of our Golds, Lewis Knight feeling the pressures. David Roth goes and sends it around the outside and gets it beautifully done. I'm glad we caught that one, as David Roth just centered around the outside of Lewis Knight, had his number, hook, line, sinker, got it sorted. Martin Spritzer now into the pits, deciding to try and go for a little bit of an undercut on the rest of the field. Drive-through penalty for Christian Fengler, though, due to track limits getting abused. Not going to be a happy camper there. And now it's all out chase with Scott Reynolds just ahead of him. Maybe to try and back up the teammates a little bit more. Maybe trying to say, well, I might get the I've got the drive-through, but I'm still going to put as much pressure as possible so you can keep an eye on your mirrors when I start closing down that ground again. But not ideal circumstances, considering this pit lane is incredibly long and it just takes you so much time and so much frustration. Paul Fenter going and doing the spinneroonie. Yeah, I've got to say, I was actually having a chat to Paul Fenter, and he told me he's got a new favorite song that he listens to. It's a South African song, and it's done by, it's an Afrikaans singer that's here in South Africa. What's the name of it? It says Hop Hop Spinner Kop. That's Paul Fenter's favorite song that he's been listening to, and it seems like he's actually taking the lyrics to heart, which is always great to see. Lewis Knight going and fighting out fellow GTR brethren of Darius at the moment, who's now trying to gap it away at this point. And who would have expected to see the two Godzillas out on the track with one another? Gotta say, is it the original versus Mecha Godzilla? What would you say?
Oh, well, God knows. All I'm thinking is Lewis probably would have just allowed that pass to happen. I went back and watched David Roth's overtake on him a lap ago. Lewis got a little bit loose on the exit of 130R. The corner is currently navigating again now. And David, just with the reactions of a cat, was able just to fire a move around the outside and secure P2 in class. That will have upset Lewis greatly, so he'll be on a redemption arc now.
Oh, into the pits, and Roth and Lewis Knight into the pits as they make their way through 50 kilometers an hour early on the anchors, and all drivers just getting it right towards the line. And that is a big run of events. Jens Nelson, Nicholas Cora, Christian Fingler, David Roth, Darius, Lewis Knight, all into the pits. Peterson still going around and will be wondering and scratching his head at this point of what to do. Ben Hicks as well, as he sees Reynolds is making up a bit of time, but the competition all starting to dive into the pits will be a concerning factor for everyone, as we see majority of our previous top 10 diving into the pits, which means that Ben Hicks still leads out our platinums, Peterson leads out our diamonds, but Rolotsky leads out our golds, with Finn van Holland and Talmo going and making up some ground as well.
Yeah, there's pit stops happening, so that'll shake it up. Just thinking strategy-wise for some of the guys out here, so if you're Peterson and you probably extend and react to whatever Lindbergh's does. You've got a 14-second buffer at the moment, you're not in a panic mode, but what you don't want to do is pit and come out in any problematic traffic. So he's probably looking at the track map and thinking where a minute will land him as far as cars go. And unfortunately for Peterson, he has a risk at the moment of coming out in a bit of a barrage of cars, which is where Fengler and Calgaro all are at the moment. He potentially will come out where all those guys are if he pits now. So his team are probably on the radio just saying, let's see where all this lies. Let's see where the dust settles when a lot of the cars have pitted, and obviously react to whatever the Lamborghini of Lindbergh's does as well, who carries on for another lap. There's a bit of strategy going on now. It's chess and checkers happening on track. We're just not watching it. We've just not got the inside scoop, so we've just got to react to whatever the guys choose to do.
Well, Jens Nelson currently leading out the pack of everyone that is pitted and has done really, really well thus far. Down in 13th position, will be on the climb with Federico Calgaro and Christian Fingler ahead. Remember, likes of Fingler still needs to do his pit stop. Served a drive-through penalty for track limits exceeded, means there is nothing protecting him from getting another one, and that is just one of the drivers that may be flirting with a little bit of a tough time, as Flynn van Holland, Talmo, Nicholas Proes, Petri Bals and Christian Fingler pull into the pits. Federico Calgaro going and gaining yet some more time during the course of this race. That's turning into a bit of an interesting one. Damien Moroni also into the pits, having a quick run through. Gotta say, we're not seeing one or two cars diving into the pits. We're seeing everyone at once just deciding pit lane, best thing ever. I wonder if there's a sales on tyres down there.
It makes sense, I think, for most people to pit at about the halfway mark. That means you're giving your tyres the best chance of lasting. The only guys that probably won't have that train of thought are your race leaders, who will just have to react to what's happening track position wise. So Peterson, Hicks, Lindberghs, they'll just pit when they think strategically it's best for them. And of course, we don't know what fuel load they've got as well. So you've got to bear that in mind, that they may well have fueled to go long, and Peterson does carry on for another lap. We'll see if Lindberghs peels off into the pits.
Ben Hicks into the pits, and Lindberghs
as well
is into the pits. But this is going to be interesting because Lindberghs should come out roughly where Darius is going to be very, very close to him as well. So, are we going to see a bit of a tit for tat sort of moment? We got side by side with one another, let's do it all over again moment? Or is it going to be a little bit more forgiving as our top three, Ben Hicks, Ernest Lindberghs and Scott Reynolds into the pits, Rolotsky's into the pits, and will David Young follow suit as well, going and driving around. That Porsche looking like its headlights not on, and I'm not sure if it's just my side, but the driver will be feeling a bit dark out there, using a bit of spotlights, and our marshals will be telling him, please turn your lights on. You've got 3 laps to do so. But it's looking rather dark in the cockpit and looking at the track for the likes of David Young. Don't know if that's something on my side that's showing it, but
no, my side seems fine.
Okay, so
just have to check.
Alright, so he's got his lights on at least. It seems like Tim the cameraman is pulling the same run as Game of Thrones, leaving the lens cap on the camera for the final episode. He's good.
Yeah, he's got his glare filter on there, yeah. I just double checked the marshals. There's currently no what we call meatball flag advisories out on track, so there's no one being warned to come into the pits for any mechanical reason. So yeah, he's definitely illuminating himself at the moment. He's fine.
That's good to see. As long as you got your headlamp on, you're fine. Ben Hicks and Jens Nelson, though, close battle, 4th and 5th, having a go at one another. Ben Hicks currently leading out the Platinum, going and having a great race, not wanting to lose time with Nelson behind him. But do you think this is a fight that is needed, considering you're currently leading your class and Nelson, who is second in his class, having a go?
No, not really. I mean, Hicks has got quite a considerable buffer now to Reynolds, who is currently P10 on the road, but P2 in class. Both drivers at this point just want to consolidate the positions. Hicks knows he's probably not going to get caught unless he gets involved in any scuffles, and Reynolds probably knows he's going to struggle to catch him. So both drivers will be in the mindset of, let's just get this one boxed off now. They'll both be happy with that. If I'm Hicks, I'm not giving Nelson any headaches. I'm letting him go.
Well, at the moment, through 130R, Lamborghini looking pretty planted, but Ben Hicks keeping it all together. David Young and Calgero now into the pits, which means the only car that is yet to pit is Christoph Peterson, making his way through the hairpin and now on his way to Spoon. No problems at hand. 24 minutes of racing to go, but when are you going to get into the box? Nelson down the start finish line is quite a considerable distance away, but Peterson still got that 15 seconds looming overhead. Means one mistake can land up with a world of trouble quite quickly, considering Ernest Lindberghs is running in 5th at this point. He is just waiting and nipping at the opportunity to go for the pass. He's got to get past David Schutten just ahead of him in the Mustang. The police having a good time out there. Gotta say, David Schutten, big fan of likes of the village people. He's going and representing the police here. Always great to see. But Jens Nelson, you're running in 3rd, going and keeping Ben Hicks rather honest in that 2nd position overall.
So a pit stop, roughly. So Lindberghs was stationary, line to line was 1 minute 16 seconds, stationary for 45. expect Peterson to be pretty similar as far as pit stops go. So his gap to Hicks is 1 minute 17 seconds. So if Peterson was to box now, it would be pretty close with Hicks as to when he comes out. So I think Peterson will just go until this fuel is critical.
Fair enough. Lewis Knight running in 4th of our gold, keeping the pressure on Rolotsky and has closed up the gap quite a bit. Army onto the back of Finn van Hollen, looks on the inside, a little bit of pressure, both slowing up quite a bit, and a little bit of contact onto the back of that Porsche, just a little nudge there. But the 420 of Paul Fenter yet again in the wall and towed back to pits. That is just not going his way. Darius onto the back of David Roth now, trying to pull himself along. Roth not going to be happy with losing too much time, as Mon Spritzer is going to be next in line to have a good go at him. But Darius through 130R got the run, running very close to track limits, and there is a bit of flirting. I know that we're close to Valentine's Day, but these drivers are going flirting with the track limits like there is no tomorrow at this point.
No, exactly. You've got to start thinking at this point who your competition is. So David Roth looks to be just letting Spitzer go now. Again, he's just consolidating the position he's in. Reynolds' career is quite a distance up the road. He's potentially not going to catch him. His immediate fight is with Rozolski, who's 6 seconds behind him now. So if you're David Roth, you're not slowing yourself down by fighting a car that isn't in your class. It makes absolutely no sense to do that. Very smart racing from our American friend.
Well, Lewis Knight going and keeping Rolotsky rather honest, right on the back bumper, and Lewis Knight not going to back down from the Lamborghini. Will try and challenge his way through, keeping very close, snaking his way around. And he's going to be heading up towards the hairpin. If he can just keep close enough, protect that inside line, possibly into the hairpin, make a move, or aim for spoon. You don't want to go for 130R, considering the Lamborghini has got quite a bit of momentum through there versus the bigger and heavier Nissan GTR. That's got plenty power, but unfortunately, you've got a nose that likes to drift out a little bit, so you've got to be so cautious on the way through. Lewis Knight really doing everything he can, but Rolotsky not backing down, and will continue the fight as we jump on the rear wing of Rolotsky, the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini, keeping it absolutely planted. Late on the brakes, bleeds off it rather early. Lewis Knight getting a whole lot of aero wash, tries to come back at him. Unfortunately, not able to get on the throttle as quick as he would like, and will have to now stare at the back of that Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo as they make their way through 130R. This is where it's going to be a slight lift, and you can hear feathering the throttle. Rolotsky very, very wide, compromise the drive into one of the hardest braking zones on the circuit. Got to bounce around, going and taking a lot of curb there. Lewis Knight trying his luck and gets a snap oversteer just for getting on the power a little bit too early. Got greedy over the marbles, trying to just close the gap, and unfortunately the Nissan letting him know that's not quite the way I want to do it. Let's try a different way forward.
Race leader in the pits. I've just been I was just about to say, by the way, waiting for a bit of a gap because I know you're covering a fight, but I was just about to say that I think Peterson should box now because he's starting to go slower than the cars that he's fighting. So the cars that pitted a little bit earlier have now got the tyres in a really nice window and are knocking on the 59s again. Peterson was in the low 2 minutes. Now was the time for him to box. So let's see where he comes out. He's really looking, you can sort of ignore Hicks, but you're looking at Nilsson, Schutten and Lindbergh's. Where's he come out in relation to those guys? I'll keep an eye on it.
Well, at the moment, Ben Hicks and Nilsson making their way through to 130R at the moment. Absolutely pinned Nilsson a little bit off the throttle through 130R, not as confident now. 1.3 seconds off the back of Ben Hicks, and through the final corner they go, waiting to see where Peterson is with that 15-second added on to his time. David Schutten a little bit further back as he only just exited 130R and is on the anchors on the way through. Sean Skitter going a little bit off circuit through 130R as he's trying his best to catch up to Ernest Lundberg's. Peterson will have to keep the hammer down, but it is Nelson up into second place, Ben Hicks into first, and for the first time in this race, we have got a platinum driver leading out the pack, and all it needs to be done is keep his foot in it to get that win. Nelson in second place will get rather defensive against Peterson to try and fight it out. I mean, this is going to be a wild one. Stop go 30-second for Paul Fenter as well for speeding in pit lane. Tomo onto the back of Finn van Holland, and Lewis Knight up ahead is still giving a good go at Rolotsky as Finn van Holland just letting Tomo go, saying, I'm not going to argue too much with you. Lewis Knight keeping Rolotsky rather busy through the snake, and now trying everything he can to get his nose in. This is now a sprint race for all the drivers. 17 minutes to go in this round 4 of the ERA Sunday Championship. The 4th round out of 7. Darius keeping the pressure on Skurt Reynolds as they fight their way through, and Darius has made a huge comeback at this point, but Reynolds not going to give him an easy position as they fight their way through. Nelson all over the back of Ben Hicks, keeping nice and close through 130R. Then running out a little bit wide there. Nelson getting a bit of error wash on the way through, hard on the anchors, and is 7 seconds ahead of Peterson. This is going to be a big one in their books if they can get ahead of Peterson by the end of the race.
No, huge. Well, Peterson obviously had a longer pit stop. I think the argument now is, if you're Hicks, are you going to risk losing time by battling Nilsson? He doesn't want to give up the race lead. Obviously, that will be a huge result for the BMW driver. But with Peterson only 7 seconds behind, that's basically a mistake in hand that he's got. Do you really want to risk losing your class, your overall win, for battling with a car out of class? I'm just on board at the minute with Lewis Knight, who's battling to get on the podium in gold. Rizolski's just sent it into another Japanese district by going wide at 130R. Lewis will be getting awfully stressed at that. But yeah, this race has almost flipped on its head a little bit, hasn't it? With the different results after the pit stops, it's there's a lot to play for a lot of different drivers here.
Well, Rolotsky, defensive inside line. Lewis Knight holding the main racing line and just not able to get the drive. You did say the mid-engines may have the advantage in terms of rotation around the circuit that may move their way forward, but Lewis Knight trying to prove you wrong with the front engine Nissan GTR twin turbo, trying everything possible, but gotta give it up to Rolotsky, soaking up the pressure every which way from Sunday from the likes of Lewis Knight, and has not lost too much time during the course of his race. He's actually kept it quite close to his personal best. His personal best being a 2-minute 1.290. Last lap, a 2-minute 1.297 after 21 laps of racing.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the fights to watch. Another one to watch is Martin Spitz has just found the back of a Mustang. This is the fight for P2 in Platinum. Skurt Reynolds will want to keep that position. Martin Spitzer will be desperate for the championship points. So yeah, he's definitely found his way ahead of Fengler now, who's another 10 positions back. Unfortunately, something's happened to Mr. Fengler, and he finds himself skirtling down the order. Not
a great one after a drive-through as well that went and took him out of the fight, but you can see how Skurt throws the Mustang in. Martin going and really trying to wring the neck of the Raging Bull as he gets very, very close onto the back of the Stallion and not able to get the drive out of the final corner. So difficult not to have the rear lighting up underneath you as it's change of camber and elevation on the way to the main straight. And Skurt Reynolds making that Mustang a lot wider than Martin would like to see. And on the brakes into turn 1, just not able to get onto those apexes. Skurt is doing just enough to go and force Martin continuously off the racing line, and that drops him by 2 or 3 kilometers through every corner.
Yeah, it's difficult to follow. It's hard to follow so close to another car and keep that gap. You've just got to pick your battles. Watch the driver ahead of you. Watch where their car's strong and weak, and effectively try and set yourself up for a move. As we see Spitzer here, that Lamborghini really loves sectors 2 and 3, so that's where he's got to take advantage. He's not going to get close to that Mustang on the straight. He's going to have to do this in one of the twisty bits, as we've seen Maroney bring out a yellow flag in the Porsche. Not the greatest of races for the Porsche driver, unfortunately. He started quite brightly. I think he's actually disconnected.
Unfortunately, not going the way, and a night to forget. Monspritz is still doing everything he can. Do you think 130R is going to be that just take a deep breath, go for the send on Kurt Reynolds, but a little bit too far back at the moment?
Maybe not through 130R, but the Lamborghini will definitely have an advantage there, and he can fire himself through 130R. He's not close enough now, but he can definitely reel that Mustang in. He's took 2 temps out of him just in that one corner, so he'll be looking at the back of that Mustang. Look at him, he's right on the back of him already, but watch the Mustang just pull away then as they go down the main straight. That isn't one hell of a straight line speed car. He's immediately pulled a temp on him, and he'll pull another 2 by the time he gets to the apex of turn 1. Spitzer's just going to be so frustrated, trying to get himself up onto the second step of the podium. The Mustang's got to be a hard car to pass, though.
Absolutely incredible stuff. Nicholas Cora leading out our gold division, sitting in the top 10 though, and is absolutely having a huge fun, lying in 7th overall. I mean, this has been quite an interesting race. Christoph Peterson 6 seconds behind Jen Nelson, who is still 0.8 of a second on the back of Ben Hicks, who's leading out Platinum and leading out the race overall. So just huge events happening here. We'll have a few drivers scratching their heads of what needs to be done in the final 11 minutes. Who's going to be able to take that risk versus reward? Who's going to move forward? Who's going to be a little bit later on the brakes? Martin Spritzer very close onto the back of Kurt Reynolds as they make their way into the hairpin. Looks for the inside line, but didn't go for it just as yet. Tried going for the undercut, couldn't quite get it, and you can see just losing out the drive on the exits. Not able to put the power down as quickly as Jens Olsen closes up on Ben Hicks at a rate of knots through 130R, and is now trying to force Ben Hicks to go that little bit quicker, feeling the pressure of Peterson by. And take a look, Ben Hicks may actually be relinquishing the position. No, he's going to defend the inside line instead, with Nelson not able to get on by. I thought he was going to allow Nelson to get on by, but instead he's like, I'm winning the race, I want to see the checkered flag, you're going to have to earn it here.
Yeah, definitely, and this is again helping Peterson. That gap was 7 seconds, it's now about 6. Peterson's got the fastest lap of the race back from Ben Hicks now as well, and he's got the freshest tyres of anyone on the grid. That is going to be important in these last 10 minutes. These two cars start fighting, they'll scrub the tyres even more, they'll be going on the dirty part of the race, trying to defend and attack respectively. Peterson 5 seconds behind them now. He's took another second out of them just while we've been talking, and they're starting to come up to traffic. So everything now is playing in the hands of Peterson. 10 minutes to go. Can Hicks hold on? I kind of hope he does, because it'll be a fantastic result for the Platinum driver.
It's going to be an incredible one, and definitely going to be one to look forward as our push driver, and that's unfortunately Damian Maroney just minding out of the way. Just wants to see the end of the race to score some points in the championship. 27 cars started the race, 25 still going. Federico Calgero getting a little bit of time, trying to close up to Christian Fingler. Nicholas Porras up against the back of Finn Van Holland as 14th and 15th go at one another. Mon Spritzer in 10th going up against the back of Kurt Reynolds in 9th overall. And we will see the battle of Ernest Lundbriggs up against David Schutten in due course, as the Lamborghini slowly been taking out some time against the Mustang as they carve their way around the track. I mean, it's been an incredible run thus far here at Suzuka, and we thought that it's going to be a very interesting race in terms of team dynamics coming into play, but it seems like drivers are the ones to pull the rabbit out of the hat here, and a lot of drivers that we didn't expect to be at the sharp end of the field all of a sudden have an opportunity to really stamp their name in history. This whole season has been all about our platinums and golds, I would have to say, as Darius loses it through 130R, and he is now going to fall into the clutches of Skurt Reynolds, and Martin Spritz is going to be going and licking his chops at this point, as Darius can be a big impact to their class run as Martin gets a little bit unsteady off the throttle. Darius had a very scary moment, and Skurt Reynolds is going to try and capitalize on utilizing the toe as long as possible. Tried looking for the inside line, still going for it. Darius a bit slower. Martin going and outbraking himself. Darius moves out of the way. He's got a bit of damage on that Nissan. Martin got a little bit greedy, trying to go for a quick overtake, a bit of a cheeky pass. Unfortunately, didn't expect Darius to slow up that much.
No, I just had a bit of a look back. It looked like Darius, as soon as he got on the brakes, then the car just started trying to spit him out, and he had to take a lot of corrective action, and that's what really reeled Reynolds in to the fight there. No harm, no foul. Everyone's maintained sort of status quo as to where they were. The Peterson saga, just to bring you back to that gap was 7 seconds. It's now 3.5 seconds. He's just done a 59.0, Peterson. So he is in the stage now where his tyres are in absolute optimum prime condition, and everyone else's are starting to fall off that cliff. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but these next 7 minutes are going to be very tense if you're Mr. Hicks or Mr. Nelson.
Well, taking a look on board Peterson's car, going and jumping over the curbs, and you can just see just in shot Jens Nelson and Ben Hicks. That lovely glow of Ben Hicks's car, more of a neon yellow, is now getting eyed out by Christoph Peterson, our current champion, who is defending the Diamond Crown at this point, looking to try and get yet another win under his belt. He does have drop rounds to play with, but wants to ensure that he has a dominating effect throughout the championship. In the fight, Darius goes out wide once again through 130R, and he has got a severe amount of damage as we on board with him, fighting to get the car around the circuit, and that helped Lewis Knight get onto the back of Rolotsky a little bit before having to lose out a little bit of time. Lewis Knight not going to be too happy with that, but Darius just having a night to forget, that's for certain.
Yeah, he's just staying in this to score some points now. I mean, he's still 6th in class. That's respectable points. So he's not really going to get any lower than that. So as long as he sees the checkered flag, he can just chalk this one off as a bad day, and he still gets some points out of it. So he won't be too mad. There's fights popping off all over this field now. We've got Lindbergh's on the back of chute, and we've got Peterson dragging Nilsson in at an absolute rate of knots. Lewis Knight, Rizolski, Parra and Van Hollen, Malmi and Parra. Fengler now right on the back of Dave Young. This isn't for class position, but it is bringing Calgaro into the fight as well, who does want to get past Young. There's all sorts to go at in these last 5 minutes.
As for Calgaro going very wide, just braking that little bit later, getting excited at this point, nerves starting to kick in. And Nicholas all over the back of Finn, looking around the outside. Finn going and defending the line. The Porsche hard on the anchors, and that is going in line. Tolmo to get into the mixes. Nicholas goes out wide. Tolmo looking to try and go for a bit of a pass. The 420 of Paul Fenter yet again into the dirt, trying to pull his way back into the fight. I mean, this is just getting a little bit wild. Yellow flags in the dark, no fun around Suzuka because you're just guessing where the cars are. Ernest Lundbriggs trying to keep within the toe of David Schutten, who is just moving left to right, trying to snap that toe, get rid of the Lamborghini as quick as possible into turn one. He managed to open up a small gap at this point, but not enough to get too much run through it all. Mon Spritzer keeping very close to Skurt Reynolds. He's got the run. He's in the slipstream. Around the outside.
Watch for a switchback. That's what he'll be looking for.
Reynolds is keeping it very close defended on the apex and runs out slightly wide, but not enough for Martin to try his hand there. I've got to give it up to Reynolds. He's just getting that car stopped at right points to go and take it away. And the frustration must be going and being had by Monspritz at the moment of what do I need to do to get underneath this Mustang, to get him off those apexes and try and continue on my race to ensure that I get second place in the championship in this race.
It's such a difficult track to overtake, is Suzuka. In these GT3 cars, it's not the widest track on the calendar. There's not really any big braking zones. You've really just got to do it by keeping a better apex speed and trying to get a better run out of the corner. That's why you're seeing cars like the Lamborghini try and V the hairpin rather than U it. And what I mean by that is he can get on the power a millisecond earlier and on the run to spoon, hopefully try and get a better run. But that Mustang is such a torque monster. It's so hard to do that.
Contact, Christian Fingler, David Young. So let's quickly go and take a look at that. Young going and battling out, Fingler running right behind. Calgero getting a little bit unsteady as he loses out a little bit of traction. Young a little bit slower, Fingler right onto the back of him. Looks around, going for the inside. Gap got smaller and lightest of contacts. Oh, and Calgero just nipping the front of Young's car on the way through, but not ideal circumstances for both, especially into the last 2 minutes and 20 seconds of this race. That has pretty much taken Fingler out of his fight with David Young. Calgero, gotta say, lucky stars for just having the slightest of contacts, but was able to continue on. Ernest Umbriggs keeping on the back of David Schutten at the moment, really giving it everything he's got to fight it out. Damien Maroney into the pits during the last 1 minute and 54. Paul Fenter just trying to bring himself back into the race after having a night to forget. But he is going to score a position over Maroney. Schutten going and losing out a little bit of drive, defending the inside line, and Lundberg's trying everything he can at this point. Christoph Peterson now onto the back of Nelson, and these two are fighting for class position. Peterson's going to have to absolutely send it. Nelson's going to have to really stop dead on the apexes, try and kill the drive of that Honda NSX. The multiple champion versus the young gun that's able to put the fight to the sharp end of the field. It's been some of his best results in the last minute. This is going to be a fight and a half for Jens. This is a fight of life as Christoph Peterson going and giving it everything he's got through 130R, flirting with the track limits, going and munching the curbs at the moment. Nelson should have one more lap to defend his position over the likes of Christoph Peterson, who wants to get ahead of Nelson and get onto the back of Hicks. But Hicks is going to be quite happy with this little argument as it gives him a bit of a reprieve.
They'll have all just had the message as well. The leader's on the final lap, so if you're Lewis Knight, if you're Martin Spitzer, you know this is your final opportunity to get a move done. Peterson's going to struggle to get past Nilsson. I don't see him making any stupid moves. He'll try and force Nilsson into a mistake, if anything else. Make that Honda constantly appear in the Lamborghini's side mirrors and give him something else to think about. Like we said in the pre-race, these drivers will be fully focused on their apex, turn points, braking markers, and if Peterson can do anything to just distract Nilsson, that's exactly what he's going to be doing. Within reason, of course, you know, no filth here, hopefully. But yeah, one more lap for these drivers to make these moves go that they've been cooking for the last 20 minutes. What are we going to see in this final lap at Suzuka?
Well, Peterson going and making a mistake as they made their way into the hairpin. Now 0.8 of a second off Nilsson, who is just giving it everything he's got to make a big impact here. This is going to be a huge confidence boost for Ben Hicks and Jens Nelson, but they are starting to catch up to Paul Fenter just ahead, who runs out a little bit wide, gives him the room, and now it's going to be a huge send. Will Peterson be able to close up the gap? He's in tow. Nelson is going to try and defend as quick as possible, try and make sure that the drive is away from the Honda, runs out wide. If you've got a little bit to flirt with in terms of track limits, time to use it hard on the anchors. Christoph Peterson, will this be the kick in the teeth to knock him down? And the few points lost in the championship, Ben Hicks will take the checkered flag and be our first platinum to win the race this season. Jens Nelson takes second place. Peterson 0.2 of a second on the back of him. David Schutten keeping the defensive line. Ernest Limerick's doing everything he can to try and score any run through the last bit of the track. Gets unsteady, and Schutten will take fourth place away from Ernest Limerick's 0.4 of a second. Sean Skitter in 6th. Nicholas Cora comes through 7th position, first of the golds, and going to be smiling ear to ear once again in the top 10. Having a stunning time. Scott Reynolds and Martin Spritzer fighting it out for the final spots on the podium for our Platinums, and it's Reynolds ahead of Spritzer. Very clean racing between the two. The Mustang eking out ahead of the Lamborghini. David Roth will go and come across the line ahead of Rolotsky in 11th. Lewis Knight, after a hard-fought fight, will come across the line in 4th place. David Roth and Rolotsky going and taking 2nd and 3rd for the gold. Absolute show of respect by all. Finn Van Hollen getting ahead of Nicholas Prost by 0.2 of a second as they come across the line. Tolmo getting 15. 16 is Patrick Bowles. He's going to be quite happy with that run. Federico Calgero will follow through at 17th and has been the cat with 9 lives at this point during the course of this race. David Young, after a bit of contact with Christian Fingler, gets across the line ahead of Hanzo Voss in 19th. Freddie Morelli in 20th, and Christian Fingler in 21st position. Darius, Lucas Collop, Damian Roney, and Paul Venter rounding out the box. Means some great racing out there. What a big impact, and I'm sure a huge confidence boost for the likes of Ben Hicks and the likes of Jen Nelson, going and getting the champion off the top spot. For the likes of Peterson, this can be the drop round, but I'm sure is going to be smiling ear to ear after having a good fight with some new names out to the top. But Ben Hicks, 2nd in qualifying, 1st in the race. That is a driver that's going to be moving into Diamond in a shoo-in, that's for sure.
Yeah, I should imagine so. I mean, what a race we've just seen. It kind of had everything. Wow. Yeah, I'm a bit speechless. I've really enjoyed watching that. I mean, I've probably never enjoyed racing it as well, but yeah, like, I don't think Peterson will be too upset with that. I'm sure we'll speak to him in a minute. He got the fastest lap as well. P2 in class, really not a bad result at all. It was only 2 temps in it in the end between him and Nilsson. But yeah, what a race. In fact, we've got him in the booth now. Welcome, Mr. Peterson.
Hello, and you're
Hello.
absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. I'm happy with the race. I wished for one more lap so I could maybe have a shot at Jens Nilsson, but I'm still happy.
I can imagine
what
that.
A fight.
Yeah.
So in the first stint before your pit stop, what was your strategy? Because I sort of theorised that you wanted to go long so you didn't get caught in as much traffic.
Definitely.
I plan to do that all along.
Yeah, I built the setup specifically for running on 70 liters. I got a bit of graining in the first stint. I think a lot of people had that, and that's why we saw such a big drop-off in the times. And I assume Hicks and Nilsson also had that in the second stint because they also had a big drop-off there. But in the second stint, I got a bit lucky and got way faster times all around. And that was kind of my strategy. Like, I wanted to go long and maybe build a bit of a gap, maybe get lucky as in some other races and have enough of a gap for the penalty. But like from halfway in the stint on, I saw that Hicks is just too consistent and I won't get such a big gap. But I was lucky that I got in front of David Schouten, because I really don't like racing Fords, I can tell you. So,
and one thing we learned from this race is that they're near on impossible to pass as well in anything other than a Nissan.
yeah, definitely.
It's the only car that's quicker than it in a straight line. The Fords were clocking 269 k's down the front straight. The Nissans were doing 267, 268 as well. So, yeah, the Honda, as good as it is through the twisty bits, it's really hard to manufacture an overtake as well.
Yeah, I can't even really reach a Lambo on the straight apparently at Suzuka, but maybe I sacrifice a bit of straight line speed by raising the car a bit in the front. I
Yeah.
don't know, but it was still like I'm really happy with how the race turned out. That was the maximum result I could hope for, pretty much with the penalty.
Definitely, and with Limburg's as well. I mean, he had a really good start, went from 7th to 5th, but struggled to progress from that again because you struggled to overtake here. So, yep, you'll probably take this one not on the top step of the podium for once, but still quite a pointsy day for you. I'd agree.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely great stuff. Christoph, anything you would like to say to our amazing petrol heads watching on at home, and also to the amazing drivers that joined us, and also our partners here at ERA, giving us a fantastic show day in and day out?
Yeah, everyone, keep watching, keep racing, keep being active in the community. It's been a great season, and there's more to come.
Absolutely great stuff. Christoph Peterson, current champion, now going and taking a bit of bronze home. Very few times we get to see that, Chris. And I've got to say, maybe it's just your voice that tends to inspire a different set of drivers to the forefront at this point. But we've got a multitude of drivers looking to get in and have a chat to us. And let's bring up the likes of David Sandbaggins Schuten, who was definitely not doing that. The big fan of the YMCA and is the police officer from the Village People, but has really shown, don't count him out of a fight with that Ford Mustang. David, how are you feeling, buddy, after that race?
Yeah, it went really well actually. My qualifying was not that good, so I only got like 10th position. And then in the first half hour, first 20 minutes, basically, I used a lot of my tires. So my tires were gone after 25 minutes. So I just decided to go in again early and see if I could overtake some people like that. And it worked out. Also because I think a lot of people in front of me, they got penalties. So that also helped. But in the end there, yeah, Ernest was really close to me and he was catching up a lot in sector 1. So I really had to defend a little bit there in the end, but luckily I was quick in the right places because I could pull away from him at the end of the lap and had a bit more straight line speed, so he couldn't really overtake me if I just kept it on the black stuff basically in the first sector. So yeah, really happy with that one.
Well, we got to see you in some good side-by-side battles during the course of this race. How difficult is it to really keep close to the competition in the dark at Suzuka with all that aero wash coming over your car?
Yeah, it's a bit difficult, but not like way more difficult than any other place I feel like. But yeah, unfortunately I got contact with Paul Venter, and I watched it back, and I think I wasn't far long enough, so that might have been my mistake there. But for the rest, yeah, it's hard to stay a bit close in the first sector, but then in the end, if I get a good run out of the last corners, then it's possible to overtake.
Absolutely great stuff. And, well, we'll see what the stewards have to say, but going and taking nothing away from you, great efforts that you've put in, getting yourself towards top, scoring some very valuable points, especially this late into the championship, round 4 of 7. Anything you would like to say to the amazing petrol heads out there in the virtual grandstands, and also to our amazing partners, teams, and drivers here at ERA?
Yeah, thanks to everyone watching. Thanks to Christian Fangler, and thanks to all the stewards again, and you, of course, Stephen. So thanks to everyone.
Absolutely great stuff. David Schuten in the Ford Mustang doing a phenomenal run out there. I mean, Chris, there is some great racing all the way through. But we're not done with all the exciting stuff, as we're going to bring up next up Skirt Reynolds, who you've been quite complimentary during the course of the race. So, Chris, I'm going to leave you
Don't
for
get
this
used
interview.
Don't get used to it. We'll bring him up. Where is his skirt? How can I do this? I don't know. I don't know how this works.
There
There
he
he
is.
is. He's up.
Hello.
I thought I'd say nice things about him for a change, because normally I give him crap. Yeah, skirt. What a result, mate. P2 in class, was that? I think, or P3?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so
P2 behind
really,
Ben
a really
Hicks.
good result. You had, I think you're probably still trying to get rid of the Lamborghini in your rearview mirror, because it seemed to just stay there for the last half of the race.
Oh yeah.
Talk
He
me
had
through
me
that.
absolutely sweating through that half.
We got some good coverage of it. The Lamborghini was cooking in that second stint, definitely. How hard was it to keep that Lamborghini behind you? Because he seemed to have a lot of pace.
Yeah, he was definitely the faster car. I just had to drive very defensively, but the biggest thing that made that such a struggle is I think the tires on the Mustang were very cooked.
Yeah.
So every single time I'd go into a corner, I'd have a little bit of oversteer on exit, so it forced me to drive really defensively, and it was a very sweaty, tough fight, and I was definitely waiting for that checkered flag to drop.
So you've got some silverware for the cabinet now. You came into this 8th in the championship. That's going to do you the world of good in this championship fight, because you've outscored a lot of drivers that are above you. So now you go into the next round sort of, in a better standing. What's your aims now after that race for the rest of the season? Do you think you can get into the top 3?
I don't know. We'll see. My biggest goal was just to have a good drive. I've had a tough season so far, so I needed a good pick-me-up. So this was just to go out there, drive, have my race, and that's going to be the game plan for the rest of the season. So we'll see how it shakes out. Not aiming for anything, just aiming for getting the car set up right and going fast.
Just get out and have fun. Completely on board with that. Well done for this one, mate. I mean, I've been a bit of a supporter of yours through this anyway, and I think a good result for you's been coming for a while, and it's good to see that's certainly been rewarded. What would you like to say to everyone watching, supporting, and following the rest of the season?
I'd say keep watching the racing. We're sweating our asses off out here virtually, and the final thing I'll say is go Birds.
Oh God.
Take care, guys.
See you later, mate. Thank you.
Well, you've got to give it up to him. The Go Birds at the end is just the ultimate stick. But running out our top 10 is a driver that I've got to say made one of the most spectacular passes coming out of the 130R is David Roth. We're going to bring him up to have a chat to us on what a pass. But David, phenomenal driving out there. A little bit of an up and down season for you, but the pass through 130R where you just gave it everything and gained a whole lot of speed. What on earth happened? Did you miss your brake marker and suddenly there was a car in front of you? Or what was the plan there?
The Porsche is magnificent through 130R, and I don't have to completely lift. If you look at my telemetry, I'm 3/4 throttle through there almost every time. And Lewis was slow. So I just had the overspeed, and I thought about backing out because going too wide through that Casio chicane is hairy at best. But I just sent it. I was like, one of us is going to make it through it, and I want to be in front.
You can't take it away. The old saying, if you don't go for the gap, you're not a real racing driver of Senna. Well, you took it to a whole new level, but finishing up in the top 10, a great result on your part. I mean, how was the race for you? I mean, tricky conditions, dark out there. You were in constant fights. You had Rolitsky that you were going after. You going and chasing after him, managing to get ahead. Then you were closing towards Montspritzer at one point. And ultimately, you had Rolitsky 0.8 of a second on the back of you. Lewis Knight just within earshot as well. It was a tough battle all to the end. Take us through the race.
Well, the race started off pretty strong. I stuck on the back of Martin Spitzer and Fengels for majority of the first half of that race. Once I realized that I wasn't going to be able to match their pace, I kind of backed off a little bit, and I stayed pretty consistent My mistake was coming out behind Skirt and then trying to push to catch him. I kind of ruined my tires doing that. So the entire last half of that stint, I had to mind my inputs a lot more than I normally would have. And Rosalski got real close. I started to sweat. That gap went from 6 seconds down to less than half a second, real fast. But no, I was happy with my pace. I did put a lot of effort in this week that I haven't really been since last season. And I felt good. The car felt good. The track was nice, flowy, comfortable. The Porsche feels great around Suzuka. And I'm very happy with that result. Top 10 finish and second in class. That's the best result I've had in 2 seasons.
Well, Chris, I mean,
It's
you've
good to see you
battled
get
with
some
Ross.
good luck.
Oh, what was that? What was that, Chris?
No, I was just saying it's actually good to see you get some good luck in a race for a change. You've been one of the most unlucky drivers I've ever raced with.
Yeah, I mean, my dad used to tell me that if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. But no, it's nice to have the reward. You know, you put the time in. I probably put like 15 hours into practice, and yeah, it paid off. Feels good.
Yep. Now you've got a trophy to hang up at home and a good result to carry you through the rest of the season, Dave. That's I'm really happy for you, mate. That you had an absolutely solid drive out there tonight. So well done, mate.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
David, anything you want to say to the amazing petrol heads out in the virtual grandstands, our partners here at ERA, the drivers, the teams, the families and friends, all on looking from the sidelines before we let you go to enjoy the champagnes and the celebrations?
To any of the other drivers, like if you had a bad result today, you just got to keep pushing forward. If you saw my season last season, it was horrific. I was in a bunch of incidents. I never had a good finish. I was driving with damage. Just keep pushing through it, you know? I mean, even if you're at the back, it's still practice. It's still practice. And these tracks are going to come up again. To anybody that's watching us, if you want to join, do it. You know, when I joined, I was what would be iron pace. And now that last race was platinum. You know, you can only go forward. And to any of the sponsors, I appreciate the support and allowing us to do this and have a great production where you can watch us push for an hour. It's an amazing feeling being able to be a part of this group. I've learned a lot, and I've made some good friends.
Well, David, absolutely wonderful to have you. Go and enjoy the celebrations. You've done a fantastic job. And onwards to the next one. And phenomenal stuff.
Thank you, gentlemen. Enjoy your evening.
You too.
Cheers, David. Well done again.
I've got to say, absolutely incredible to see the drivers doing so well, Chris. But it has been an absolute honor here at Japan and going and seeing all the drivers have a great time. Anything from your part to just sum up the thoughts of such a spectacular night's evening of racing and side-by-side racing, considering these are competitors you're on track with, and getting to see a different perspective now.
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed my my night in the commentary booth, Tim. Thank you for having me and welcoming me into your world. It's definitely different to being out there on the track sweating for an hour and getting frustrated with myself for making mistakes. So it's different. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's been interesting to watch the duality of racing. Sometimes, you know, we've seen some drivers that have had some fantastic results, some that have put a lot of time into it, and maybe one or two accidents, and they've had a bit of a bad night. Darius springs to mind. You know, he had a fantastic qualifying, and then the race just unfolded. And I've been there, and I know how he's feeling right now, and it's absolutely gutting. But then you've got drivers like David who've had nothing but bad luck for 2 seasons, and suddenly he pulls that result out, and the reward of fighting for that long through the race to then come out at the other side of it with a genuine, tangible result, that is one of the best rewards you can have. So it's been good to share that with the drivers tonight.
Well, been an absolute fantastic one, Chris Wall, everybody, and legend in the world of sim racing. And once again, I can't thank you enough for joining in the commentary box. I can happily retire at the beautiful age of 30. It's downhill from here for me, unfortunately. But
Well, I'm
Chris,
knocking on 40, mate, so I don't know where I am.
no, well, you don't look a day over 12. You're absolutely fine. But
Cheers, mate.
Chris, it's been a fantastic evening. We say goodbye to Japan and we move on to a little bit of a different circuit, heading out to Red Bull Ring, a little bit of cooler circuit. And for any Max Verstappen fans, well, it's the track that's going to work out for you next Sunday. So make sure that you tune in, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon. Let us know what was your favorite part of the race and what are you looking forward to next week at Red Bull Ring. I've got to say, I'm looking forward to some new winners now that we've got some confidence boosters in the form of David Roth, Ben Hicks, and the likes of Jens Nelson managing to move their way up through the order, and also seeing the likes of Darius and Ernest Lundbriggs going to do crossing swords with one another. Also, make sure you tune in to the podcast as well here at ERA. Lots of interesting conversation where they go through the seasons, the drivers, a little bit more what's going around in the background, and all the fun that comes from it. It's an incredible, incredible feat that's being done here at ERA, and a massive, massive thank you to all our partners and drivers, teams, spectators, also to our amazing admins and stewards that work tirelessly behind the scenes. Make sure you go and also come and be a part of ERA. Don't sit down and look at all the racing and say, gosh, I want to be there. Come be here. Click on the link down below. Join up with the championships and also join up with the classes. You will learn a lot, whether you're a veteran or whether you're new. There's always a bit of time to pick up one or two tricks here at the beautiful circuit of, well, beautiful group of ERA. Make some good friends, have some good chuckles, get to talk to Chris, who's got a multitude of information and will definitely go and educate you on how things are done. But from ourselves here in the box, from Chris Wall and myself, Stephen Koenig, we'd like to thank you all for joining us. And like always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.
Take care.